Well, hello. My name is Havilah. I'm 21 years old, and I've always wanted to be a filmmaker. So I started dabbling into photography and videography, and I started writing a story back in during when COVID was happening, and wanted to bring it to life, but I didn't know exactly how, and so I consolidated it and decided to turn it into a short film and called it Doorkeeper. And so that's basically how Doorkeeper started. And it's basically a film about a woman who is deeply trapped in life and in a system that's been created and doesn't know how to get out and begins to become very depressed and just very, very numb. And she goes on a deep mental journey in her mind of the process of what she's been through and where she wants to go and who she is and how she gets out of where she's at. And it was very relevant to who I was and where I was at in my life during that time, during COVID, and like just figuring out what's going on and having so much free time of being in quarantine, of just asking a lot of questions about life and about myself. And it was reflected very beautifully in the film, and I was so touched that other people resonated with that same frequency. So man, it was a beautiful project, and it was great because I did it with all of my good friends and family, and it was a very intimate, just beautiful experience for all of us to be a part of, because they were questions and it was a topic that anybody that was listening or that was a part of it could like apply to their own lives, of like, whoa, let's reflect in my own life, and can I learn something from this, and bring this into my life in a positive way. And so yeah, it was just a beautiful experience. And I shot the film over 2 years ago and edited it, like, I think a year and a half ago. And so seeing where I was during that time versus where I am now is so beautiful, because it's such a reflection of like, I feel like where I'm at now is so, I'm like, I'm that woman driving out in the car. And so I don't want to spoil the thing, but
Yeah.
it's like I've already driven so far, and I feel so alive and so free. And there's so much weight that's been lifted off of me from that time when I was even writing the story, of like me relating to myself back then. And it's beautiful. And I love it. I love the transformation in myself, and also just in the film, of being, just feeling the connection so deeply,
Mm,
of just how it's transformed myself, and how I can look back at that and be so grateful and content with what I've gone through and how I've gotten to where I'm at right now.
mm.
And it's
Wow,
beautiful.
that's beautiful. That's right. That's right. So you mentioned that this was a project that you did with family, and I noticed that there were some of your childhood filming in there. I could hear your dad's
Yeah.
laugh, and it was so precious. And so you want to give us just a little picture, paint us a little picture of sort of where you grew up and the roots of your life.
Yeah, I grew up with a family of 7, and we were a very outgoing and adventurous family, but even in that, I was very quiet and at peace and just calm. I remember having a very hard time expressing my emotions and expressing how I was feeling, and not knowing the words of what to say, or like even where to start as to like maybe why I was crying or why I was feeling a certain way. And it was so like deeply rooted. And it was something that I had to struggle with for a while and find out, where my voice was and how I wanted to express myself in general. So I was very observative, and I listened a lot. And yeah, I took in a lot of information and just was soaking up a lot. And I feel like that's mostly what my childhood was.
Yeah.
And I feel like just now, like in the past year and a half, has been me finally coming to a point where I want to put things out and like express myself.
Yeah.
And that film, that was a really big deal in that sense of putting myself out there and being so vulnerable as to, like, something that I deeply resonated with and expressing it in that way.
Can
Mhm.
you identify when that switch happened? What were some of the contributing factors, or what were things happening inside of you, outside of you?
Yeah. Wow. The key shift was a year and a half ago. I moved to Hawaii, and I basically took like a couple backpacks with me and just went off on my own. I didn't know anybody. I didn't really know exactly what I was getting myself into, and I just went by myself. And that was the first time that I had left the home completely by myself in that way for like that long term.
Mm,
And I only intended to stay in Hawaii for a few months, but when I got there, it was very clear to me that I needed to stay much longer. I started meeting people that I deeply resonated with that I wasn't meeting in my hometown in Arkansas. And I feel like that was a really big pivotal point for me, was to find other people that resonated with the stuff that I was interested in, and even just like seeing the world the same way I did, just
mm,
on a deeper, more, I don't want to call it like spiritual level, but like you're just looking at things with more awareness. So feeling the comfortability of being around those people helped me, come into my shoes and express myself more. And then even leaving those people, having a deeper sense of confidence in myself to, say what I want to say, express myself how I want it to be expressed. And not only like setting aside the people, the islands in general are a very deeply energetic space. And everything that happened there was so transformative. Like the experiences I had, the situations that I was put in, the people that I met, just sitting in the jungle and being in that space of like deep nature and deep, just like raw, like wildlife, and just not being around normal society and technology and like fast food, and being so connected to the food that you're eating, the things that you do, what you consume, what you say. Like it's all very like, it's just all very sacred and
mm.
intentional, and it brings to life what you're doing and how you show up in the world. So yeah, I'd say that was the pivotal point for me of the transformation.
Do you have just a glimpse of a story that you can help us hone in on that the idea even more?
Yeah, when I first got there, I met a friend who became an absolute best friend of mine. And he was somebody that I genuinely feel like we were supposed to meet, because he was such a pivotal role in exposing me to this entire different filter of what reality is, and how deeply you can go and how much more possibilities there are. And we lived on a bee farm basically out in the middle of nowhere. Like there was no Wi-Fi, barely any cell service. We had no electricity. We didn't have fridges. It was like completely off grid, and we all lived in tents. And it was just like us and nature, like raw nature. And so when we weren't working on the land or taking care of the business, him and I would just sit and talk for hours and hours and hours. And we would just go back and forth about everything that we were interested in, and just like go like super, super deep in our lives and what we've gone through and how we perceive things. And having him in my life and having somebody that I could just really talk to and feel absolutely comfortable with was so beautiful to me. And I had never met anybody that could resonate on that same level with me. And we lived there for 7 months, and the entire time we were just like having deep conversations. Basically, the entire time we got super close, and it was beautiful. And I'm so so grateful for that. And I'd say that was really when everything started to shift, was
Mm,
having those conversations and coming in a space that I felt very comfortable with.
mm.
Um, or comfortable in. Because yeah, that's something that's really important to me, at least, is feeling comfortable and feeling not like insecure, but just reserved as to like where I point my energy or like, express myself to. And so
Mm.
yeah, I needed somebody that was like, hey, you're safe, I'm here for you, let's talk. And then like everything else changed after that. And so it's been so beautiful after that fact, because yeah, it just snowballed after that. And I've
Mm.
met so many other beautiful people. Yeah, but that was the first main story, I'd say, that
Mhm.
really kicked it off.
Mm. You mentioned earlier in our conversation the word transformation. Can you share with me what you mean by that word and maybe put some bones on
Mm,
the idea for me?
yeah.
What does that mean for you?
Transformation in my mind means just shedding layers, because there are so many layers to us as human beings, and there's so many filters that we put on how we perceive things and how we perceive ourselves. And so transformation, at least for me in my story, is letting go of those layers and coming down to the root of who we are and why we're here and what we're doing, what we feel like we want to do, and just like taking away all of the ego and what we want or what we think we want, and then coming just back to the source of just love and what our intuition is guiding us to do. And so the transformation is just coming back to that and
Mm,
feeling that and then going from there.
beautiful.
Mm.
Is there anything you want to share before we pop it up on the screen?
Yeah. The only main actress in the film is my sister Mo. And what's beautiful is that before I asked her to be the main actress, I wrote the story. And when we were shooting it, it was so beautiful how her role in the film was resonating so much with her life. So everything that she's like going through and everything that she's feeling is like very real and very intimate to herself, which gives the film, in my opinion, such a deeper layer as
Mm,
to like what the story is trying to tell. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all I'd like to say.
all right. Well, let's see. I'm going to do the share screen thing here. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, Doorkeeper by Havilah Galaxy. Wow, wow, wow. That shot when she's holding her hand out, it's just like, uh, uh,
It's so good.
feel it deep,
Mm-hmm.
deep, deep.
Mm.
I was reminded of Francis Weller's book, The Wild Edge of Sorrow. He talks about grief, and
Mm.
what I was sensing as I was watching was this lost community of care and
Mm-hmm.
deep grief uh, at not being able to remember. So I jotted down this quote from him because it just really hit, and I wonder if this resonates with you. And he writes, "It feels somewhat daunting to step off into the depths of grief and suffering. Yet I don't know of any more appropriate way to undertake the journey of reclaiming soul than by spending time at the grief shrine. Without some measure of intimacy with grief, our capacity to be with any other emotion or experience in our life is greatly compromised."
Mm.
I sensed a lot of grief in here. Am I sensing that right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That you did spend some
Yeah.
time at the grief shrine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's so true. That's so beautiful,
Hmm.
because I definitely feel like the intention of having the main character be in the car and having the space to cry and to look at the photo and to remember her past, and just like feel the freedom to grieve was the absolute only way that she could have come to the other side, knowing that there was more peace, more happiness and freedom past that. But she had to go through the tears and go through those memories to get to that point. And yeah, it's deep. Yeah, I definitely went through that process, and so did Mo. And it's powerful, and it's very true. And it's also the sense of like going back to those memories in your mind and like not reconstructing them, but just seeing them in a different light. And I wanted to make that a pivotal piece in the film, was like her going back into those memories that she perceived as deep sorrow and deep sadness, but seeing them as like, oh, this is potential, and this is me looking forward and beyond, and coming to a space where the answer is herself, and she's the only thing that can free herself. And she doesn't have to take anybody else's hand, and there's nothing out there that she needs to grab onto or even find, but it's already in her. Like, she's already in the car, everything is prepared for her to leave and to go find more peace and more joy. She has to just realize that it's nobody else, it's nothing else, it's her. It's her inner being that is taking her there. I named the film Doorkeeper because you are the keeper of your own doors, and they're closed, and they're closed because you have the power to open them yourself and go through them yourself. And it's just a beautiful representation, a reflection of your sense of, of power, and power over your life, and what's possible and what you're capable of, and seeing your past as in a positive light. Her driving away and her having her essentially inner self in the back seat with her, with the photo of us kids on the rearview mirror, is like just accepting both sides, like seeing what's beyond, but accepting what you've been through and driving beyond with both of those things with you.
So when I think about these sorts of soul transformational moments, I'm always looking for what is the collective impact. And so as you think about your journey and this project and what you're trying to communicate, how does it integrate with the collective and with the greater community?
I feel like a lot of people are suffering right now, and that's very easy to see and easy to feel. People are suffering, and the earth is suffering. And yeah, just recognizing what we as a collective have been through to come to this point, and not being ashamed of it or looking down upon it, but seeing it as like accepting it and being grateful for it as pivotal parts to where we are now, to like getting where we are now. And then being like, okay, here we are. What do we want to do now? Like, where do we want to go? We've been through all of this hard stuff. Like, we're stronger because of it, and we're even more capable because of the suffering we've gone through, and just like seeing the positive rather than just going deeper and deeper in the hole of negativity and just more suffering. And obviously suffering is a part of life, and it's not going anywhere. Like, it's inevitable. It's part of, being a human being and being on this planet. But seeing it as a positive, and seeing the value and the weight that it has of making you stronger, and knowing that you have the choice of letting it break you or make you. Like, I definitely say that that's the main thing that I see, as the collective in that sense.
Mm. I was reminded as
Mm.
I watched this as well of a poem. It's by
Yeah.
Kasia Gertler. It's called The Healing Time. And she
Mm.
writes, finally on my way to yes, I bumped into all the places where I said no to my life, to my unattended wounds, the red and purple scars, those hieroglyphs of pain carved into my skin, my bones, those coded messages that send me down the wrong streets again and again, where I find them, the old wounds, the old misdirections, and I lift them one by one close to my heart, and I say, holy, holy.
Mm. That's so beautiful.
Mm,
Wow. Yeah, I deeply resonate with that. It
mm,
reminds me of just going one more step deeper into what exactly we're talking about, of like suffering. And it's just reminding me that it's our choice that's creating our perspective on it. And it's there, and it's giving us the freedom to see it or do with it however we want. And so making the choice of seeing it as this divine experience that is transforming us
mm,
and bringing us back to our roots and who we truly are is gorgeous.
mhm,
It's so beautiful. And it just makes me be in so much awe of this life that we're living, and more excited to go through suffering because I know what it's doing for me. And I
mm,
know that it's a gift and it's a privilege to be a part of it and to feel all of the senses of pain and of happiness and of pleasure and like all of it. And it's all so perfect and so amazing and beautiful.
mhm.
And wow, yeah, that's a beautiful poem. I love that. Mm.
How do you integrate all of this into your being?
Yeah. Meditation is my main thing. I love to meditate at least once a day, and it doesn't have to be for a long time, but my main focus during meditation is to simply feel and be in the body versus in the mind. So feeling all my senses, listening, and just being a vessel where all of these things can just like stream through, and I'm just sitting in the back witnessing all of it and being very present with all of the senses of, feeling, smelling, breathing, um, all of it, thinking, just all of it, everything that's in reality in this moment. um, so yeah, meditation for sure.
Mm,
And intentionally surrounding myself with people in particular that are also on that same wavelength
mm,
of positivity. And the food that you're consuming, that's a totally different topic, but the food, the past few months I've been getting so connected with my food, which has been such a deep practice of what am I eating, where is this from, like why am I eating it, and being in a meditative state while I'm making my food and just connecting to that, to the basic action of being, of existing, of being like a human being is eating. You got to eat. And just like getting back to that and just eating raw foods and fruits and vegetables and food that's actually good for you. So yeah, the practices would be meditation, who you surround yourself with, and your food and what you eat and consume.
yeah. Well, it sounds like you are at the beginning of a very wonderful journey, and
Mm.
it's been really lovely to just hear your perspectives and definitely your ability to tell story and encapsulate sort of the emotion and even the music you picked. Wow, amazing.
I'm so happy to hear that from you. That means so much.
Uh,
Wow.
the shot of the hill, where is that hill?
That is a park called Cedar Glades Park in Hot Springs, Arkansas. That is my absolute favorite spot in Arkansas. And I would go there almost every single day to watch the sunset. And
Mm,
so when I was creating this film, I already knew that I wanted to shoot it there because it was just absolutely perfect. And it has a very deep, intimate connection to me.
yeah.
And yeah, that place is beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, well, I hope you're blessed by our time together, and
Thank you.
yeah, just keep creating.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks.